Hi, I'm Danielle Hartman. Welcome to Poured in PA, a series sharing the stories of Pennsylvania's craft beer industry. In this episode, we're visiting York, Pennsylvania, rich in history and home to a unique tour providing in-depth and behind-the-scenes visits to the county's 20-plus breweries.
Going back to 2011, York started seeing brewery after brewery after brewery starting to pop up all around the county, and I recognized that what we have here in York is something really special. So I talked with people, I did a little research, and in December of 2017, I decided it's time to open up the York County Ale Trail. We are anything but a drunk bus. We are not a pub crawl. What you'll get on our tour is we routinely visit 3 breweries, and you will have a flight at each of our breweries. It's typically 4 or 5 ounce pours. A tour lasts approximately 4 hours. You'll have about 5 beers is what that adds up to. When you figure in the ABV on some of the beers, it's going to be a little bit higher. So you'll get your fair share of beer, I promise you that. But we don't want people getting overly intoxicated because you want to enjoy the beer. If you get to the end of the tour and you're half in the bag, you've missed an awful lot. Welcome to Old Forge. We've got 20 breweries here in York, and these guys are the only one not from York. In fact, they're out of Danville, Pennsylvania, so they're up 1115. And when I heard they were moving into York back in December of 2018, I gave them a call and said, why are you guys coming? And it's not that we don't want them, but I want to know why. And it was because they saw what was happening here in York and wanted to be a part of it. And I think that just really speaks volumes about what's happening here in York. So we're very happy to have Old Forge on board. So today we're going to be sampling 4 of their beers. So one of the things you're going to notice as we go through our beers here today, there seems to be a bit of a theme with their beers. So we got a T-rail. Does anybody know what a T-rail is? It's that steel rail that the wheels ride on. And if you look around the establishment that we have here, we've got various items that have been forged. Old Forge is based on the theme of hand craftsmanship, which fits very well into our maker's style here in York as well. So the T-rail is named after one of the items that had been manufactured. Well, I'm going to move you along to your final beer, which is the Slack Tub Stout. It's pretty dark, right? What are you guys getting out of there?
Coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee,
Mm-hmm.
chocolate, breakfast. Yes. Yeah.
Should have had this one first.
There smells like coffee in there, right?
Yeah.
There's actually no coffee in this one. Okay. So this actually comes as a result of the roasting process, that they're able to pull those types of flavors out of the malt. So as you guys are finishing up your beers, we're going to get ready to head to our next stop, which is going to be Collusion Tap Works. It's a really wonderful brewery tucked away in the Royal Square District, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. And we're going to be walking there today. It's a beautiful day out, and on our walking tour, we like to point out a few things, so pay attention as we're walking down, because I'm going to tell you a little bit about the wonderful history of York County, which dates way back to the American Revolution. Okay? So, enjoy. One of the things that we like to do with our tour is we incorporate history. York County is rich in history. Everything from the American Revolution to the Civil War to World War II. There's great history everywhere here, and we incorporate that throughout our tour. The Confederacy had taken York. In fact, this was the most northern excursion from the Confederacy. there was General Jubal Early, along with 3,000 Confederates, took York, and they were going to burn it to the ground. And the leaders of York went to General Early and said, hey, please don't burn us down, we'll give you money. And I believe it was $25,000. So they gave him a down payment. They never paid him the rest of the money. After the Civil War was over, General Jubal Early came back to York and says, you guys owe me the rest of the money. And they said, thanks for coming, have a nice day. We had something through our Convention and Visitors Bureau which provided a map, which was good, but I wanted people really to get an experience. I wanted them to understand what it was, because I think it's really special to hear from the brewers, what's their story? How did they get into this? How did they do this? Why do they call what they call their beers or the name of their brewery? To give it more than just I'm sitting at a bar and I'm having a beer. We've got Ben here with us today as well, who's one of our brewers here. So everybody say hi, Ben.
Hey, Ben. Hey. Do you need more beer?
I need a little bit more beer, please. Just for two. The Fuzzy Scrumpet. This beer is unlike some of the other beers we've had here today because this is a wheat beer. So we talked about where it's predominantly barley. In this instance, we have wheat, which is one of the indicators that you're going to see is from the color. It's a lot lighter of a color, which is an indicator that we're using something other than barley. I would say this is one of the more popular beers on.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say our best-selling beer that we've been making since day one. Start with a pretty simple grain bill, similar to a lot of IPAs we make. So we do use a good portion of two-row barley, but then we use malted white wheat and flaked oats to add a creamy kind of soft texture to the beer. And then we use actually one Southern Hemisphere hop, and then the rest are American varietals, kind of to lend toward a tropical sort of peachy apricot flavor that we get from the hops. And then we condition this beer on white peach and pink guava puree from Oregon.
One of the things we haven't talked about yet is there's really, at the end of the day, there's only two styles of beer. It's either A or it's B.
Or C.
They all fall off into the family tree.
Indeed. So on that note, so we have ales and we have lagers, and then a third one, which is not a lot of people are familiar with, but is just spontaneous fermentation. We primarily focus in ales, which are typically between 2 and 3 week turnaround times. Ale yeast ferment at a warmer temperature, and they tend to float toward the top of the beer. Your lager yeast will ferment at a much colder temperature and will flocculate or fall to the bottom of the fermenter and do most of the work down to the bottom of the fermenter. So that's why they call them top fermenting and bottom fermenting beers, ale, lager. And then you have spontaneous fermentation where you don't add any yeast whatsoever. You just have the natural yeast and microbes and stuff that you find in the air around you and ferment beer that way. Mayans would make their fermented sort of chocolate, or the cacao drink they would make, that was spontaneously fermented. They just knew when they drank it that they felt good and they liked the way it made them feel. They didn't exactly understand the fermentation process there, but that stuff was all being spontaneously fermented as well.
Because if you date back to the German purity laws for beer, they didn't mention the word yeast. It was barley, it was water, and it was hops is all they had. Those were the three things you had to make beer with. They didn't know about yeast.
You could be killed for using other ingredients in beer other than those three at the time. Now that's since they've kind of laxed off that a little bit,
So as you're enjoying your first right, delicious Pilsner, we're going to head into the back and we're going to take a little bit about the brewing process and see some of the unique things that Collusion's working on today. Okay? So bring your beer. So through this process, where does the hops come in?
No, we don't use any hops. We make old world beer. So that's something I was telling Glenn. I wouldn't say it's incredibly unique, but in a lot of our beers, we do not boil our hops. We'll add them right after we're done boiling our beer to extract more flavor and aroma and less bitterness from the beer, or less IBUs. So I'd say almost all of our hoppy beers, the hops are never boiled per se, but they're added at hot temperatures or at different temperatures to get different levels of bitterness, different levels of aroma and flavor extraction. So I would say, the majority of our beers, the hops are never boiled, but for things like Pilsner, different lagers, most of our dark beers, the hops are added right at the beginning of the boil, which typically be like the 90-minute mark.
One of the things that's down here to my right-hand side, I got a couple barrels. So what's going on with these barrels?
The right one, we actually just emptied last week for a project. I don't know if we have a name for it yet, but it was a mixed fermentation sour beer, which was primaried in stainless and then further fermented in a rum oak barrel, you can see there, with pineapple puree and coconut. So we're kind of going for like a pina colada sour beer aged in rum barrels. And then next to that we have a English style barley wine in a tawny port barrel. And then back here you can see we have a few more barrels, primarily of mixed fermentation sour beer. And we're hoping to see a few more of those before the end of the summer.
So I will certainly put a plug in. If you are not a member, Collusion has something called the Colluders Club, which gives you access to bottle releases such as this, because speaking as a member, if you wait around trying to get a bottle on your own, you're going to have a really hard time doing it. So I would encourage you to consider being a Colluder member. Ben, thank you so much for showing us around back here.
Cut!
We provide walking tours, and we also provide a bus tour on our Brew Bus. Our walking tour is predominantly focused in York City. We have currently 6 breweries in a 1 square mile radius. So our walking tours are divided up into 2 different tours. One hits these particular 3, and the other one hits these 3. Our bus tour is designed to get outside the city. Because York County, as we have it now, we have 20 breweries. And the bus is designed to hit those breweries outside the city.
One of the things we encourage when we pass other people is to make sure that they recognize you're having way more fun than they are.
Especially on a Monday afternoon.
Which state brews the most craft beer?
Pennsylvania!
That's right.
There we go.
Yeah.
York, since 2011, has seen a proliferation of breweries. We currently have 20 breweries. It's just not the beer, it's the quality of the beer. And it's just not the quality of the beer, it's the camaraderie that you see with our breweries. They do not compete against each other, they compete together. And it's not unusual on any given day to walk into a brewery and see a brewer from one of the other breweries just sitting here enjoying one of the beers. It's really special that the variety and the number of breweries that we have in the county, it creates a very unique experience for the craft beer lover.
So when people talk about national beer destinations, you hear Fort Collins, you hear Asheville, right? And when you take a look at central Pennsylvania, we have over 60 breweries in a 1 hour radius, which competes, if not surpasses, some of the other national beer destinations. And that's one of the things that we're trying to accomplish is the York County Ale Trail, to make central Pennsylvania a destination around the nation for craft beer. We have outstanding brewers, and we got a lot of them.
We've seen about 25% of the people that go on our tours, they're from outside the county, which is good. One of the things we're really trying to do is to promote York County as a beer destination. So the Baltimore market, the DC market, the Philadelphia market, the New York market, those are areas that we've really been drawing to, and we're starting to see them come here.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, welcome to Stony Run Brew House. We are going to have you exit the bus at this time because we have some more delicious beer in store for you. So let's see you on out.
Welcome to Stony Run. So, have you looked around this place? We're back in time here. This is more or less a Belgian monastery. So we're going to relax, we're going to kick back, and we're going to enjoy some good beer. So one of the people that are joining us here today is Tim. He's one of our owners for Stony Run. He's going to tell us a little bit about the place. So Tim, come on over here. We've got two beers in front of us. As you see, we've got a light one and we got a dark one. How's that for a description?
That's a good start.
It's pretty
There's
pretty
a lot more
lousy,
that goes
isn't
into it.
So which one should we try first?
I would say let's go with the Helen's Happy Creme Brulee Imperial Stout first. That way we don't get the hops too much on our tongue first. It's a Creme Brulee Imperial Stout. So it's a 9.2 ABV. It's low on the IBUs. It's real smooth, and it's going to have a little residual sweetness, but it's a really smooth drinking 9.2% beer.
What do you guys think?
Oh, love it.
One of the things I like about this creme brulee is I've had other creme brulees, and they're all very sweet. You really get that creme brulee, but this one, I don't want to say faint, but it's almost as an aftertaste in this.
Yeah, well, you don't want it to be too overly sweet, because then it's not for everyone. That's where people tend to lose that taste a little bit if it gets too sweet. So,
as we're working through the creme brulee, we have a milkshake IPA. Yeah. So yeah, a milkshake IPA. It conjures up a weird idea in your head when you think about milkshakes and beer.
Yeah, it's more of it has the mouthfeel of a milkshake. It's made with lactose, so it gives a little bit of that sweetness, but it also gives it that mouthfeel as well. So that's where the term milkshake comes from. It's kind of smooth and creamy like a milkshake. So that's what our next beer is, the Emily's Dream Mango Milkshake. Emily's actually my sister. And my dad is he does all the brewing, so only makes sense to have a beer named after the family.
That makes sense. Keep it in the family.
And actually, she came up with the idea for this one. She said, "Hey, you should make a good mango milkshake IPA." The rest is history, and that's actually one of our more popular beers. It's probably our second best-selling beer behind the Hop Frog IPA. So it's closing the gap pretty quickly, because it's pretty popular. A lot of people really enjoy that. So.
We have all kinds of people signing up for these. We have 20-somethings all the way up to 60-somethings. It's people that really either know beer and want to enjoy beer, or even the novices that don't know anything and want to learn something. It's really the full gamut of what we get.
For me personally, we've sampled beers that I typically would not have ordered. And because of using this, you can enjoy all of them. And you're going, I appreciate now them for what they are.
I appreciate you saying that, because one of the things that we really strive for with the York County Ale Trail is to introduce you to things that you may not have tried before.
Yeah.
So we put the beers in front of you, and we'll tell you right from the beginning, there's beers you're going to like, there's beers you're not going to like, and there's some beers you're going to go, I've never had that before, oh my God, I like it now. Mm-hmm. So if you walk out of this tour with some level of new appreciation of the beer, we've done our job. Because this is about educating people about beer. It's more than just cracking it open and pouring it down. So I appreciate you saying that. These are our brewers here for Gift Horse. We have Jason and we've got Josh. And they are the guys that make this lovely beer that we have in front of us. We've got Quaker Baked, which is an IPA. And then we got a shandy, which is perfect on a day like today.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. We're standing here in, I guess, what we're calling the beer garden, right?
This is our beer garden. It's a little over 5,000 square foot. We feature cornhole. We do live music on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Have a full service bar on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We like to mix it up, serve some different beers out there when we can.
We wanted to offer something for everybody that comes around. We wanted people to know that just because you go to a brewery doesn't mean that beer is the only thing available. So it helps get a better crowd in here, better clientele, and there's something for everybody. And that keeps people coming back.
We have things that Glenn is doing to help boost the beer tourism here in our fine city. He's been doing a great job. As you guys know, you're on his tour. Anytime Glenn brings a tour through, we're always happy to open our doors, show everyone around, and show you kind of what our piece of this York City puzzle is. and we definitely appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot. There's not a lot of tours like us in this country. It's a bit of a different spin on what the brewers are trying to do. They're here to make good beer. That's what they do. They're not necessarily, marketers. That's what we're here for, is we want to promote what it is that we do here in New York, and that's make good beer. They make the beer, I'll scream it from the rooftops. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and sharing your beer. There's something about beer that just speaks of celebration. It speaks of just getting together. There's something unique about beer. In our history, in American history, and it even goes back to Europe as well, people gather around breweries, they gather around tap houses for family, for business, for community, and they sit around and they have a beer together. And it causes conversation, and it's something that a lot of people enjoy. So that's why beer.
If behind the scenes is what you want, you'll want to stick around for our next segment. Meeting at the Malts is an annual fundraiser for the state's beer guild, Brewers of PA. It brings together brewers, legislators, and industry professionals to tap into what's next in Pennsylvania's beer industry.
This is the first time the Brewers of Pennsylvania are bringing the Meeting of the Malts to South Central Pennsylvania, Hershey, Pennsylvania. How about a round of applause, right?
I come to the Meeting of the Malts because it is the premier beer event in Pennsylvania. It brings everybody together, and there's a lot of free beer.
Meeting of the Malts is a fully fledged, crazy idea. We were looking for an event that we could raise some funds with, and we recognized that when people are drinking beer, they like to talk, they like to share stories, they like to share rumor. So let's formalize this. Let's get everybody together and get folks on a stage, get them to talk about the industry, and see if we can attract an audience with something like that.
For those of you who have not attended a Meeting of the Malts, this is an experience. This is not a night that's a rubber chicken dinner. There's enough of those in Harrisburg, right? This is a night of celebration of beer. You know why? Because we're number one. Brewers Association came out, and the most amount of beer in the country is produced in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So let's celebrate.
This is a great event for the Brewers of Pennsylvania. Meeting of the Malts is where you get to see a panel of industry leaders that really tell you what's going on, what everybody's feelings are, and it's a great way to see the camaraderie of all the beer people in the state.
The BOP is the Brewers of Pennsylvania. It is an advocacy guild. We have a very large, lively membership, and it's really about outreach and advocacy and lobbying for the rights of brewers of all sizes in Pennsylvania.
This is a great event for Pennsylvania. It draws beer drinkers in from all over the area. Being a staple Pennsylvania brewery, it's important for us to participate with the other Pennsylvania brewers and, stand behind them.
Being in Pennsylvania, we have a really great connection to agriculture and the fruit belt in general. So exploring the different wild fermentations with local fruits and nectarines and cherries and such. From that, we got interested in the lactobacillus fermentation and different fruits, and that's where the Goza came from. There were people that were long-term Trogs fans that were willing to try things they haven't had before. I don't think we did it searching for a non-beer consumer, but we probably found some of those along the way.
We get some really powerhouse speakers to come in and talk about what they have experienced, what makes them successful, and hopefully our membership and all of the enthusiasts can learn.
At the heart and soul of every craft brewer is innovation. I mean, we breathe and drink it. I think right now, though, it's a unique thing that happening in craft beer and beer in general is that we have to behave like rock bands in a lot of ways. We have to write a hit song every year and a half, it seems like.
We're in a very congested time where it's hard to sell beer, and harder than it's ever been in my experience. And your strategy is either double down on what you know and really refine what you stand for and innovate to the best of your abilities. And the other strategy, it seems like, is do everything and see what works. And we are sticking to what we believe. We're passion fueled, and when we're passionate about things, that has led to degrees of success.
We grew up in a world of fake food, and beer that didn't taste like beer, and bread that wasn't bread, and cheese that wasn't cheese. And what craft beer is the redifferentiation of American food? This, the world that we're looking at now, is normal.
It can be a spectacle. It is information. It can be raucous. A lot of things get said on stage that are true and honest and direct. It shows what craft beer in Pennsylvania is all about.
21 to 34-year-olds do tend to drink less beer as they move into 35 to 44, but they don't drink less craft. They tend to trade up. And so you see those craft volumes hold. So I think there's a huge opportunity for craft over the next 10 years as the millennials age to convert them into a generation that used to bring, a bottle of wine to the fancy dinner party, to bring a six-pack, to bring a growler, to bring some of your beer. And to age into beer rather than aging out of beer as we've seen with previous generations.
I look forward to connecting with all the activities of the Brewers of Pennsylvania. This is a very active state guild. They're active in education, in legislation, and in connecting all of us.
We started up in 2010, and we had a group of brewers, only about a dozen, that realized that we need to get more involved in politics and letting people know the economic impact that we have.
Pennsylvania brews more craft beer than any other state in the nation. And that is something that we take to our legislators every day.
Well, currently the breweries are popping up all over the place, and they're big economic boosts to the area. It's boosting the economy, it's providing jobs. There's a trickle-down effect where they're buying grains, they're buying stuff from all over the place. It's a really good thing.
We revitalize communities, and it is exceedingly important to focus on that.
Beer law has changed very quickly in the last 3 to 5 years, and tax law maybe not so quickly. So a lot of it's just getting things up to speed and making sure that our legislators are informed when they're voting and making decisions to try to change things.
Oh, I love meeting of the malts. I get to taste a little bit of the beer, something special that's going on or brewed, and I get to see all the individuals that are making the breweries, successful and work here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
I just want to thank all of you for what you do for Pennsylvania and for Pennsylvanians. What you do for our palates and what you do for our economy. Economic development, investment you make, and all the jobs that you create, you're doing wonderful. Keep it up. Cheers.
Breweries have changed the landscape in small towns across Pennsylvania. In Ephrata, St. Boniface Craft Brewing Company celebrates this with an annual festival they call BoniFest. Go check it out.
Today we're having our annual BoniFest, just as a way of celebrating all our customers and really just coming out and having a good time.
As you see, we're better off today, and we've grown from our younger days. Freedom comes home stay, and I love you more along the way.
I guess, because we were kind of here from the beginning. My dad, I remember growing up, my dad would go down to Duke Street where St. Boniface used to brew and pick up growlers, and I wasn't of age at the time, but it's expanded into something where it's a community. These people that we come here to spend time with, family, friends, people that we love, people that we enjoy spending time with, and it's really the community that makes it really awesome.
We lived in Ephrata, Pennsylvania for 60 some odd years of our lives.
No, me only 56, so.
And we make it a point to come back for St. Boniface for their festival every year.
Love the beer. I also really love the people that have started St. Boniface. They're wonderful people. And for Ephrata, it's been a really great business in the area, so I want to support it.
And I love you more along the way.
Since we opened, we've had so much support from our community and greater Lancaster County and the counties around us. It's so special for us to be, to be supported that much around the community. So we kind of decided to do BoniFest as a bit of a thank you to everybody.
That's all you.
I think it's absolutely the best thing that's happened to Ephrata since sliced bread. It's great. I'm glad to see that they're succeeding.
It's probably my favorite festival in the area. They save a lot for today, and they release some high caliber stuff. I enjoy coming out and getting, up close and personal too with a lot of my clients that do a lot for my company, and these guys are one of them.
We like to do business with good people and have everybody come out and have a good old time.
Thanks for joining us. We have one more for you. Fermentery Form in Philadelphia is doing things a little differently, and I think you'll want to see how. Till next time, cheers.
I met Matt and Scott in like the early 90s, sort of surrounding like this Northeast Philly punk scene. Scott had a record label, Matt was in bands. Really, it was just meeting like-minded people going to shows. Now we're like more than 20 years later, and like this thing happening with the brewery is just like another chapter in this long thing. We'd all been involved in some homebrewing projects together for a few years. We had done all right with it. We were all making stuff that people were getting excited about, and being big lambic enthusiasts, like I kind of took it upon myself to read a lot, and I was really interested in figuring out how some of the more complex flavors that you didn't find in a lot of sour beers in the States were created. The idea was to take some of what I'd read and some theory and see, if we get some oak barrels and we all kind of pool our money together and we get a spot and start doing things collectively in a more traditional way and see if we can make some of the theory stuff work in reality. I sort of quickly realized that doing just the long-term barrel-aged beer wasn't going to cut it. The returns are too far in the distance. We needed to make shorter turnaround mixed fermentation beer, and then that kind of became my obsession. And so it was all about creating the right kind of balance of flavor without having to do really long-term aging, using a mixed culture. And so I sort of developed a bunch of techniques around that. And so most of the beer that gets sold out of here now is that month to 6 week turnaround beers, which is a lot better than 1 year turnaround beers in terms of finances. And I think we've grown to love that aspect of the brewery as much as the long barrel aged stuff, even though it sort of came secondarily.
Not closing that yet. I didn't start the tap.
Matt and I had a conversation relatively early on where we kind of agreed that like we didn't want to make any throwaway beer that we didn't like. We didn't want to have a roster of other beers just to finance the place. Like that just seemed wrong. So I started looking into ways that you could work around that, and I somehow stumbled upon an opinion in some of the legal documentation online for PA. And someone was asking about brewing off-site. And the reviewer said, if you're talking about trucking wort over, like unfermented beer over, like we don't care. Like we only care once it becomes beer because of taxes. And I saw that and was like, alarm bells went off. And lo and behold, around the time we get this idea, all of these smaller breweries started opening up. And so now you've got people who have equipment that's probably idle a few days a week. And you have an opportunity to go there and, give their brewers an experience, bring something different, pay some of their bills for them, and produce your own stuff. The only difference is that when it comes to knocking out at the end of the day, we chill the beer down just like normal. We have our own sort of temperatures that we're looking to hit. And then it goes into a HDP liquid transportation container. It's a whole thing, but we managed to get off-site the brewing in a very cost-effective way. And that's really what allows us to function, because without our brewer partners, we have nothing, it's just us here standing in a building. There's two different threads of beer here. One we loosely call farmhouse ales, and the other one we don't really have a name for. Around here we kind of call them lambic-inspired beers. We're very careful about the usage of those terms because they are traditional terms, so as to be careful to not offend people that we look up to greatly. We don't use them on our labeling or anything like that, but it is a lambic-inspired beer. That's what we're trying to make here.
The two beers are related. They use somewhat separate but very similar house mix cultures. The farmhouse ales, they're fermented in stainless tanks, open top, so it's not like spontaneous fermentation, but it means that there's no internal pressure on the yeast as the fermentation's carrying out. So it's essentially like fermenting in an open vat. So it can roll as hard as it wants. There's no external gauges or hoses or anything that's like putting reverse pressure on the beer. We want full complexity of fermentation here. With the lambic inspired beer, the process is a little different. So those start off in the stainless tanks. I'd say about the first 2 phases of fermentation are done in stainless. Once the beer settles down and it's not bubbling like crazy, we put it into the barrels, and so the acidification and then the Brettanomyces creating a lot of those novel flavors and aromas happens in the barrel. With our fruit beers that involve barrels, we're looking for 1-year-old stuff that's sort of in a good place. We also make a 1-year blend called Formation, which is the best of the year-old barrels. Whenever we're taking beer out of barrels, we're replacing it with beer from sort of the next level up on the stack. And that means that it's beer that's already very well conditioned, and that creates kind of a micro blending over time. And so any one barrel might have, 3 different brews or 4 different brews worth of beer in it. So there's already a lot of complexity for a single barrel. And that's something we take into account when blending. One of the things that we focus on here that is not popular at all anymore is 750 milliliter bottles. This comes from kind of coming up with the Belgian beer, mid-90s, early 2000s, sort of that being the thing, getting excited about, DuPont and Chimay and Le Chouffe and St. Bernardus and like all of these great Belgian beers. Sure, you buy some cans or whatever, you have something you can crack at home by yourself. But I've always had a couple bottles to the side, even if it was only 2, for the right guest to come over to share and enjoy. And so in starting this place and making the kind of beer that we make, it's like all the beers that we love that we could reference, they all come in large format bottles. So I just felt like we have to carry that on. We have to make bottle sharing a thing here. The best thing is when you get a group of 5 or 6 people come in and they'll go through 3-4 bottles between them and they're sharing everything and talking about it. I mean, that's just, I love seeing that so much. The draft is a great thing to have, and certainly we sell a lot of draft beer here, but I always tell people if you want the full experience, it's the bottle. And it's sharing that bottle with the right person. Talking to the guy next to you don't know, and you're like, oh, you haven't had this one yet? Like, can I have a glass? Like, I want to pour him some. Seeing those kind of things happen, that just reinforces everything we believe about like that format and this style of running a place. The fact of the matter is that when people are coming to a brewery that they've never been to before, they have preconceived notions about what it's going to be like. And it's some weird amalgam of every other brewery they've been to. And that makes sense, right? You're looking for something familiar. The problem is we don't offer anything familiar. So how do you bridge the gap? Just reading about chicherias in South America and how it used to be that when a chicheria had chicha, they would put out a bouquet of roses. But I like that idea of, this place is sort of closed, it has no visible sign that anything's going on here until we're ready to sell, and then there's a signal, And we'd already kind of been working with this green color in some of our marketing stuff, so it was like a green light, that would be fun. And lo and behold, it's become like this thing. And we still hear every week people complaining that the place is too hard to find and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, I don't know that I could make it any easier to find. As it is, any mapping service you use will take you literally to this door if you trust the mapping service. But the problem is people get to the corner and they see the map pointing up this street. They look up the street and they say, there's no way anything's there. And I can't help that, it doesn't suit expectations. And so there's a gap there, and luckily a lot of people are brave and they're willing to take a chance and walk down this weird alleyway. It's funny, it's quirky, it's exactly in line with the way that we generally are. I think it suits this place well. I like being a kind of oasis in an otherwise wrecked looking alley. I like seeing the surprise on people's face when they walk in here and it looks like something enticing and interesting and they weren't expecting it, you know? That's always cool to see.